weekend and pick up where we left off. So let's keep working at making Sirtet. So last time we all worked, we were working on rotating, and we ran across a bug where if we tried to rotate a shape out of the grid, it would let us do it, and then we would end up throwing an exception because now the grid was illegal. So let's see if we can recreate that again to remember what it was doing. Maybe, if it will run. There we go. Yeah, so we're coming down. Yeah, we can rotate, no problem. If we go over here, it won't let us rotate. Let's try again. Nope, won't let us rotate. But if we go all the way over here, won't let us rotate. It didn't let us rotate that time. Did we fix it? Oops. There. There we go. That's the problem. So, it looks though like it only happens when we like rotate on the very far edge of it. So which is kind of weird. Not quite sure what's going on there. So that's crazy. So something about when we do our check, let's see, we're saying index out of bounds. So maybe that's not, yeah, because when we index into grid, so my thoughts were it was a problem like we rotated it out and then we tried to go into the grid to like check if it was empty. But right now we say if it's not valid, we say it's not empty. So like this handles taking invalid numbers here, grids, but this is saying it's still in our grid though. So it's saying calling set. Why are we trying to set everything? It's because we rotated, right? So interesting. So we rotated out, and that made, so for some reason it allowed us to rotate, but that made this move here, this drop down, illegal. So we said there was no empty space below this block because this is out of bounds. And our logic is that if there's no empty space below us, below every single block, then we must have landed. Like we're stuck, we can't move any farther. So since this managed to get out of bounds, then it's landed. And so it's then going to go, okay, I'm landed. I got to set all of the blocks into the grid. Unfortunately, this one's out of bounds. And our set here, which takes an enumerable list, is not as protective, I don't think, as our other set. Where's our other set? Oh, we had a set that just took one. Yeah. I mean, this one isn't either. Both of these will let you try to set invalid blocks and just throw an index out of bounds error. I mean, at least it protected us from like swallowing this without saying anything and then randomly, you know, not working because of that. You know, like we could have swallowed the exception and not have any idea what's going wrong because it just suddenly stops working. Which is why exceptions are helpful. You don't always want to hide them. The question is, why was this a valid rotation? And this is where we might have to start writing unit tests, because I'm not sure why it thought we could rotate out of the grid. Because in our code, our piece, is it in piece controller? Piece controller just tells the piece behavior to rotate. And the piece behavior tries to check if it's a valid rotation by using this rotate around a block method that we borrowed. And we're only valid if every position there is empty, which makes sense. And we're rotating 90 degrees around the z-axis, which is, oh, interesting. Should that matter? Because this is saying the back axis, which is -1 on the z, not +1. Because negative would be into the screen. So that positive. And clearly that's why though. It's like we're saying vector back here 90, and here we're saying this is essentially vector front 90. So we do vector front 90. There's not a vector front forward. Stop it, restart. So from here, if we look at our Tetris shapes, we're supposed to rotate from here to here. Wait, does that make sense? How do we go from here to here with a 90? Like it should be up here. That is so weird. Do they really rotate like that? This flips from here to here, back down instead of pointing up again. And then again back over. That's so weird. Yes, it's again like it just flip-flops. Oh man, does that mean we have to have custom rotation logic per piece? Because I thought those were the pivot points, not some weird fixed point. Yeah, I mean, ours is definitely, that didn't fix it. It still let us rotate out of bounds. Wait, this tried to rotate to negative. I mean, that's basically 0, but so weird. What is going on here? What? So their location inside of the piece didn't change, which I guess makes sense. Right? But we just rotated around the Z negative 90. I mean, I definitely don't want to hard code these rotations, as in this block goes to this block. It's kind of feeling like what it's doing, though. Hmm. So what is our get blocks doing again? Yeah, no, we're taking a transform. Wait, are we counting the pivot as a child? Oh yeah, this occurred to me the other day. We've got the pivot as a child in our thingy, which doesn't really need to happen. We do need a pivot, but our pivot's actually one of these. Why isn't it showing which one we have selected anymore? What did I break? Selection? Oh, this is on the stupid pan tool. Okay, so this is our pivot, right? Back here. Oh, kind of. Where's the other one we were looking at? This one. So this is the second one is our pivot here. So we can just take this. Well, we could. We take this. Yep, last one. Why are these in a weird order? Bottom, there we go. So we can take this one and drag that there, make that the pivot. I don't think that's going to fix anything, but it's at least cleaner. So it won't let us rotate out here. Oh, weird. It won't let us rotate anymore there either. Yeah, something's going on with that pivot and our world transforms. I'm not entirely sure what. I'm kind of thinking maybe this pivot or rotate around position, rotate point around pivot isn't correct. Yeah, it's just tricky because I'm definitely in the spot where my math is failing me. And when that happens, you're left with unit testing. Okay, this is weird. None of these are namespaces yet, so I don't really want to start that now. Test, rotate around point. This is going to get ugly. Yeah, don't these have to be like some special assembly or something? I mean, okay. Remember there's something in here about testing, but I've never really gotten used to the testing just feels really weird in here. General test runner. So we create a play mode, create a new play mode test assembly folder. Still not where we. So we'll test piece behavior. Okay. There we go. Now, there's something special you have to do in here. Delete. Because this is creating. That's funny. Oh, why did you create a new Visual Studio instance? Didn't need to do that. So here, we've got a new tests folder. Test piece behavior. And so you can see like it creates this assembly folder, and you've got to tell it that your main assembly, or that this new assembly here depends on your main assembly. But I'm not seeing the main assembly, which is weird. I thought it auto created the main assembly file for us. Yeah, they're all gonna fail. Why aren't you creating the main assembly? Unit test main assembly def. Yada yada. So we create the test assembly folder. We saw this. And then, so we have to go scripts, create asset definition. Where was that? Does anybody see it? Oh, assembly definition. Main. Is that a reasonable name? Doing slowly. Very, very slowly. And then if we go back to our test, that's right. Now we can give this a reference to main. And apply that. And that should, yeah, that'll make this say we need to reload. And it will get an assembly in here called main with all the assets and scripts. And it will update this test one to reference main. Okay. Now we can do test public void rotate piece around point. Now if we have 3 pivot goes like j3.origin 0. Okay, so we're setting the pivot at the origin. Set pivot to origin. Easy math. And then we do piece view. This could be static. This really goes on like a vector tools thing. Really should. But rotate point around pivot. So we're going to take the point and we're going to say the point is at 3, x equals 1, y equals 0. Stop doing that. Day job's getting to me again. There we go. So we're going to have this point that's 1 unit along the x-axis. And then If we rotate it 90 degrees around the positive z-axis, our pivot, and we're going to say vector 3 dot forward times 90, so that's 90 degrees around the positive z-axis. That should take it and rotate it clockwise, which will be down to 0 on the x and -1. Vector 3, new point. Then we can say assert dot. I want to say that the expected is a new vector that is 0 units along the x and -1 units on the y. And the actual is new point. Okay, then we can no. And we failed. So that rotated in the wrong direction. So rotating around forward. Okay, so in this world, forward goes into the screen, not out of the screen. And I was expecting forward to go out of the screen for some reason. I mean, I was expecting positive z to face towards you, not into the screen, which is traditional on like mathematics. Like if you're doing a rotation system, you would think of z pointing up out of the paper, not into the paper. So yeah, I've got my rotations backwards. So if we do back, then we go 90 degrees. That should go down to -1. So let's verify that. I mean, we failed, but they were the same. Is this floating point arithmetic errors? Let's see, unit test vector equal. Somebody have a thing about this? Use the equals operators. Ugh, this doesn't give us any message. I guess I could say expected this equal to this. So we expected new point to be equal to, I don't like repeating myself. And are we gonna pass? Okay, we're gonna pass. So back is what we mean. This rotate around pivot appears to work. So piece behavior, block, we actually do mean back, right? Because in our test piece behavior, I mean, I guess as long as we use the same in both places. So times rotation. I don't think this is going to fix it, because I don't think that this method was the problem. It was. Maybe it was. I guess I can't get it to rotate out of bounds now. I mean, we still get some weird, bit of a weird flipping going on. There, I think we got rotation working. It's a bit weird because we're not following Tetris rules, because we're definitely keeping a center point here and rotating around it. So it's a good throw Tetris pros off, but we're not Tetris pros, so I think we're okay. Awesome. So what was my commit? Clear line when full. Okay, so we did commit that. See how this show diff works. It'll be interesting. Oh, please show me the diff. Huh. Does none of these work? Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Well, I guess we can go ahead, before we commit that, we should go ahead and mark all the pivots on these. Let's take a look at our Tetris shapes. So it should be this as our pivot. Inspector. So this piece here, 1, 1 is our pivot. And my guess is it's the same here. This is our pivot. Ugh. This is going to rotate, isn't it? If we give it one of these, our current logic is just going to spin around instead of staying in place. Well, we'll see what happens if we don't give that one a pivot. So that's down here. Which piece is that? It's the third one down. This is our pivot. T piece. Pivots from the center. This is one that actually pivots the way you'd expect it to pivot. See, like it pivots around this point entirely. It's just this piece that doesn't pivot the way you'd expect. Yeah, I mean, this pivots the way you'd expect. It's just that one piece. This pivots from up here. Try this 1, 1. Okay. So the only one that's going to give us problems because we don't have any block that's actually in the middle. Can you give yourself as your own pivot? Okay, let's see what happens there. Okay, but that does mean that in our scene here, spawner, we want this to be the O piece. Oh no. That doesn't work. That's awesome. So awesome. Oh my gosh. Okay, so clearly being your own pivot does not work, which makes sense because this is like, yeah. Wait. So yeah. That's all right. I thought the whole point of this was that our pivot was down in the bottom corner. This O piece is going to have something else to actually give us a transform. And I don't think we can just insert a transform. So we're going to have to create this pivot, which is going to screw everything up, though. Because we need this pivot to actually be in the dead center. Right? In order to make this work the way we want. But we have logic that just can't handle, like, this child shouldn't be here as far as all of our logic is concerned. Which is going to screw things up, I think. Because when we go to set, when we're going to get blocks, we iterate over all of our children, because our children are only our blocks. Currently, I do not like this. And tags are horrible. We can't just ignore the game object that is the pivot, because all of our other pieces, we used the game object as a pivot. We don't want to do it by name because that's broken as all get out. Well, chat, any ideas on the best way to solve this? I mean, I don't want to like hard code the name because somebody could come along and screw that up in theory, but this is, well, we're the only ones doing this, so I guess that's not the worst one. It's also the last one in order, so we could say, oh, well, you only iterate over the first 4 blocks, and the last one you just ignore. That also seems like a bad idea. Honestly, child dot game object dot name equals pivot. This hurts so much. So much this is wrong from everything I've read, but honestly, it's a tiny crack game to kind of get into the feel of it. It seems like that's reasonable for now. So we got our square, We rotate. I'm hitting the up key. That doesn't seem like it, but I am. Okay, so last thing before we make this commit is go back to our scene and our spawner and our prefabs. Make that 0 again. Spawner, lock it so I can select all of these pieces, drag and drop. Now they're all there. Unlock it, save everything that's going on, make sure all of this is saved. Run it. See what happens. Okay, so can we actually play some Tetris here? I mean, it is Tetris, right? Why are you giving me such horrible pieces? Really? Uh-oh. Everything disappeared. Oh, ooh. Ooh, that looks bad. What happened? Did we enter some sort of infinite loop? That's horrible. Look at all of this. Oh my goodness. I don't think that was happening while we were just playing, was it? Let's start over. See what happens as we just play. Oh, it is. What's going on? Hey, that's just happening in the scene. We'll try restarting Unity. My guess is that's not supposed to happen. Okay, that's all clear. Let's try running it again. Yeah, that looks good. So far, so good, other than shitty pieces. Yeah. See, I removed everything. There wasn't no error though, so that's an improvement. Problem is like our grid is now hidden. Like it's part of this play field. Like it's buried inside of this script. Can we attach to Unity while it's running? Let's see, we want to, next time anything happens, I guess here works. Just kind of want to break just next time anything happens. So continue, resume Unity. No. Dang it. not useful because I accidentally restarted. So let's break here. This does mean we have to play more of the game. Why are we? Maybe I should give myself just nothing but straight edges again, because testing while actually playing it's kind of annoying. Come on, give me a piece. Okay. Game.grid. This is definitely a case where it would be useful to have had the array arranged in rows, then columns, not columns, then rows, because we're like spaced everything apart. But so we're saying in here, row 0 is clear. So let's step into it. Okay. Let's cover this. So row equals 0, so we're going to go to row plus 1. And we are going to go through, we're going to destroy it at x minus 1. So we step over that. Yep, x minus 1. And that's going to be 0. That makes sense. I'm going to destroy that. And then we're going to set 0 to what is currently n1. That makes sense. We're going to do this over and over for like 25 times. So let's break here and continue. And so now we're going to go is row is y full? That's the wrong question to ask because we didn't change y, we changed y minus 1. Because the idea that we're checking here is if we had a full row at like row 1 and a full row at row 0, when we shift 1 down to 0, we could have made it full again, like the new row. So we really want that to be y minus 1. I don't think that's our bug though. Let's reattach Unity. That's probably because we restarted. So let's stop and start. Oh, that was a bad drop. Okay, so I'm gonna step in, keep going. It's going to run through. Maybe this is just right. But if we pause now and we look at the we want the grid. So yeah, next time we check if it's empty, I just want to be able to expect this. Continue. Okay. Then we look at the grid. What is this? Why? Why is that all nulls? Dang it. Okay, so we're not just removing one row and shifting it all down. We destroyed the game objects on every single row. Which isn't what we want to do. We only want to destroy the game objects for the row we're on. And the rest of the game objects we want to leave intact. So we're going to destroy, remove the row destroying objects, shift the rows above down one. So that's what's going on. And that's why that grid was showing null in quotation marks, is because it was pointing to like a game object still that had become null because under the hood we destroyed it, but we didn't actually set it to null. So Unity's C++ and C side had to agree. And so I guess there's a null, quote unquote, null game object that gets used when this happens. Oh, well, that was fun. We clearly can't lose, as you can see here. I'll just keep stacking them up forever. Well, this is like a losing piece to start with. I guess we can test what happens when we clear the second row. Well, at least it didn't destroy everything, right? Oh, that's why. Oh, that's annoying. This is now the problem with our visuals and our grid are no longer in sync. Because we moved them in the grid, but moving the grid doesn't move the visuals. Ew. Ew, that's so ugly. I do not like any of the possible solutions. Because one requires coupling these very tightly together. And that this remove and shift down is going to have to tell all of the game objects to actually update their transform. And that seems horrible because this grid knows nothing about transforms. I mean, alternatively, it's got to remove a list of all the blocks that it did move. which I guess is better. So now I need a list of blocks moved, new list. So if the grid is not empty, we can move it down, and then blocks moved, add new block. How do we create a new block? This is what happens. The later it gets, the harder it is to remember. Block part of the grid, yes. So it's a struct. Oh yeah, we're just saying new block, and then it's this weird behavior where we don't use the constructor, we just create this instancy thingy of it. This is weird. Okay. Not much is clear. Why we want it to be the new location. Like, to be equal to and then return blocks moved. This is not pretty, but it's not the worst. Cause like what's weird is like these pieces have all gotten broken because once they fall, it's like the piece behavior is gone. It's almost like it should just destroy itself. Maybe it should. Once it's landed, it's no longer a piece. It's a bunch of individual blocks. Yeah, it's almost like you could just destroy itself here. Like the component could destroy itself. But then you're left with all of these game objects hanging around that hold all the individual blocks in it, but they don't really need to. And eventually it's going to cause a memory leak because we're just going to be creating more and more of these because we never actually clean them up once we remove all of their children. Because in here, we're going to have to assign this to list of blocks moved. And then we're going to have to go for each block, and blocks moved, block dot have a feeling this isn't going to handle double shifts very well. Yeah. This seems kind of messy. I mean, we can do it this way. I just gotta move. Ugh. How did we shift them down when we did fall? We just did an offset, right? So we didn't have to like calculate new locations. Yeah, we just added vector down because everything's one unit. Plus equals vector 3 dot down. This is gonna be weird to test. So I'll have to test a double line clear. How are we fixed rotation? We should have committed after fixing rotation. Because now we're trying back into fixing line clears. This is definitely a separate commit. At least it should be. Yeah. I knew it wasn't going to handle this well. Should. Yeah, because the thing is like, this is telling us when rows are full. Like, the grid is sending out that event. Which is cool from the sense that we can just like listen to wait until the row is full and then we see what we're supposed to do. But not so great from the perspective of the game loop. And that like blocks are falling on their own. The only thing that knows about rows being full is this. But it keeps invoking row being full. Even though there's no way it's full. Is this the double shift problem I was worried about? Well, we know we can commit all of the piece controller. And the grid doesn't have any of the rotation logic in it, so we can skip the grid and change this to the line clear. The piece controller, yeah, we want to rotate from that. And we haven't changed any of the clearing logic in here yet. It's only been in here, so we can commit this as rotate pieces. Player has ability to rotate controlled piece. Commit that. go to our Trello board. So this is the hardest thing about working on software is remembering to checkpoint your work when you're done. Technically we're now in a new bug that is row clears, clear multiple rows / crashes with Stack Overflow. We're not going to work on this right now. Okay, so this is clearly a serious issue, and one that's going to require thinking about the architecture of this scene or of the game. So it's happened. I'm not sure why it's doubling, because we are shifting a row down. And we're moving. It's a new position. Oh, because we're not clearing out old positions. We should only be saying we moved a block if the position was not null, but we should be moving things all the time. We should be moving empty blocks down. So what we did is we weren't moving empty blocks down to empty blocks, like we weren't moving the holes down to cover things up. So that left it not ever actually clearing them out, just more like shifting things down. So like blocks were kind of overlapping with each other. So if there was nothing to move down, the old block stayed around because we weren't moving the hole down into it. Just the problem. Hey, look guys, it only cleared one row. Now, the trick would be testing how does it handle clearing multiple rows? Like, can it do that right? That means we have to build up multiple rows. Ah, I cleared it by accident. I'm too good at Tetris. It's like, I must clear that. Okay, now we need, this will work. What's gonna happen? Oh, no, another Stack Overflow. I was pretty sure that was going to happen. Okay. So we can pause this. So we go back to our Trello board. This is actually done. We have a new bug though. Clearing multiple rows at once causes Stack Overflow. Okay, that's awesome. We now know this. And I think that's what we're gonna call it done for the evening. We've got a little bit over an hour now. We've managed to complete a couple of things tonight. We got rotate shapes. That's awesome. Yay, rotate shapes. We fixed this bug where our row cleared multiple and then crashed on us. So that's awesome. But yeah, so we're going to leave it there tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. We'll probably try to be on tomorrow night a little bit, about the same time, 10:30 or so Pacific time. And probably going to stream for another hour and a half tomorrow. So thank you all and talk to you later.